everyone. This is Christopher Kunney, and welcome back to another episode of Straight Out of Health IT. I am so excited that we are starting season 3 now using video as well, too. As you know, for those who've been listening to me, the past 2 seasons have all been audio podcasts. But this year, I wanted to try to do, or this season, I wanted to try to do something different. And that is to actually have both audio and video podcasting as well, too. So I definitely look forward to getting your feedback about that and whatnot. This is a good approach to take, or if I need to go back to having a face for radio. So thank you so much. And one of the other reasons why I wanted to do this particular podcast this way is because of the guest that I have today. And the story and conversation we'll be talking about. The topic of today is really the incredible journey of individuals who have been recipients of transplantations. And in particular, this individual has received a full facial plantation. So let me just jump right into this because I want you to meet this gentleman and learn more about his story. Facial transplantations is a medical procedure that has the ability to transform people's lives. It's the incredible journey that involves transplantation of a donor's face onto a recipient's face and allowing them to regain their appearance and self-confidence. Procedure is not just about physical transformation, but about restoring a sense of identity, normalcy, and to one's life. On this week's episode, we're going to explore the journey of facial transplantation from one of the first successful surgeries in 2005 to the present day. We'll examine the science of the technology behind it, this life-changing procedure, and we'll hear from, again, my guest, who's been just an amazing individual and has an amazing story today. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Robert Chelsea, the recipient of a full facial transplant. Robert, the Stamp Man Chelsea, is a devout Christian and a native Angelino. He was raised on the south side of Los Angeles, and he's a graduate of Manual High School and is one of 4 children. He enjoys track and field and meeting new people and has a daughter, Ebony, of the age 30. On August 2013, Robert's vehicle was struck by a drunk driver. The collision and the ensuing explosion left Robert severely disfigured, with third-degree burns over 60% of his body and face. After years of tests and physical and psychological examinations and a longer than unusual wait for a donor, Robert underwent 16 hours of a full facial transplant at Brigham and Women's Hospital. And also at the age of 68, he became the first Black recipient and the oldest in the world to receive a full facial transplant, which is absolutely amazing. Robert's committed his life to the issue of organ donor tissue transplantation and telling his amazing story to the community. So again, without further ado, I want to introduce you to Mr. Robert Chelsea. Robert, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be a part of Straight Out of Health IT.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, Christopher.
You're very welcome. It's such a pleasure and such an honor to have you here today. You know, I talked a little bit about the accounts of that day that, completely changed your life, but I know that little bit of snippet I shared just doesn't do it justice. So would you please take, a few minutes to tell people who you are, your journey, what happened that tragic day, and how that's changed your life?
Well, the person I am is just like anyone else. Like anyone else, I've been married. I have a lovely daughter. She's now 34 years old. And I did normal things. I was self-employed before my accident. The accident took place in 2013. That's just about 10 years ago. And as a result of that accident, I know others would look at it as tragic, and I can understand that. But that incident that happened to me was more glorious than I had experienced,
Wow.
that is in my life that I could identify with, realize that God had been completely and totally in control of what would take place from that point on. And it was so easy to surrender because my treatment, my care, my comfort, uh, I was able to find rest in Him through this journey from
Right.
past up to this point now. So I can tell you all about the highlights and what might be the sizzle and to others, but really the most important is that through it all, there's a wonderful golden thread
Exactly.
provided a comfort so that I did not suffer as one might have imagined. People
Sure.
say to me, oh, Robert, when I hear about you, oh, you're so courageous, you're all in. Well, they might say those things, and that's how they define someone that goes through it. But
Hmm.
really, uh, who could be so courageous? Who could sustain themselves
Right.
mentally or physically if it weren't for the help and grace of our Heavenly Father?
Absolutely.
So as I explain my story, please bear in mind, I just I enjoyed the ride.
Well, I mean, that's an amazing perspective to have. And I can't imagine in any form or fashion. I mean, obviously, you have to live through your testimonies, right? You can't have a testimony without a test. You have to live through those things to understand and gain insight on it. But I can't even imagine what the emotional and psychological toll that would have been on me personally, having to, first of all, deal with the physical challenges associated with receiving third degree burns over, 60+% of my body. And not only that, but it also to have disfigured me and my face to a point where, and I'm going to share with our listeners kind of before and after pictures as well, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
just to show them the incredible transformation that took place in your features and the incredible science behind this as well too. So, I can imagine simple tasks like going out in public and interacting with people and, the reactions you may have gotten from individuals would have a toll and an effect on you. And through the grace of God, I'm sure, which, was the comforting component that helped get you through these things, was a part of that mechanism to help you survive what I'm sure for all of us would have been, almost a life changing, a life, altering experience. And I just can't even imagine what it was like, what life was like for you after the accident. So maybe you can share with us a little bit about that as well too, in terms of how it impacted you personally, your family, your friends, your business. What took place, after you were recovering from your injuries.
Well, when a drunk driver actually, I was on a freeway and a drunk driver, my car was parked on the shoulder of the freeway
Right.
in Los Angeles area, and because it had overheated, and I called him
Mhm.
at the time to see if he could come and maybe bring a hose or something.
Right.
And while talking with him, a drunk driver swerved across some of the lanes and drove straight onto the shoulder,
Right.
and he didn't slow down at all. When he ran into me, my car was hit. It went up in the air,
Oh, wow.
came down, and it was like a few seconds later, it just blew up.
Right. Right.
And when it blew up, I started going to the left, and I started. It felt like I was going through a long tunnel of fire.
Sure.
A couple of steps away.
Right.
And I went through. There was a good Samaritan standing there waiting and trying to help me to get out of the car. His name was
Right.
Richard Rovers.
So were you in the car at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
in the driver's seat.
Right.
So I just pulled over uh, to the shoulder waiting, to figure out what I was going to do, called AAA or whatever.
Sure.
So as I was getting out the car, Richard said he tried to take my hand. I mean, my arm, but my arm was melting.
Wow. Oh my
He
God.
took a belt buckle and felt over. But we checked on the guy first to see if he was okay, and he was okay. He had not been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Brought over to a certain area. I was still conscious. And when the ambulance came, I told him who I was and who the car. I just thought I would be picked up at the hospital,
Sure.
a few hours or so once they checked me out.
Right.
As I was so severely burned at the time. I
So
did
your
feel,
body had gone into shock. Were you in pain? Did you feel any of the effects of the?
yeah, I felt some pain on my knee and my lips and a few places. My lips were actually burned down,
Oh my God.
and part of my tongue too.
Wow.
But I didn't realize all of that. When I laid on the gurney, figuring they would take me to the hospital and check me out and then release me. But I didn't wake up until 6 months later. So I was in a
They
coma
did
6 months.
they was it a sleep-induced coma? They put you in a coma, or you went into a coma?
I went into a coma.
No.
I think probably they originally uh, kept me in that coma, but then of course they don't keep you in a coma 6 months.
Sure.
They tried to bring me out of it, but I didn't come out.
Right.
Anyway, so I stayed in the hospital a year and a half. First 6 months was in a coma.
Right. And then when you awoke from the coma, what was told to you? I mean, what did the doctors say? What did your family say?
Everyone rejoiced. Uh, all the nurses there calling me by my nickname,
Right.
Bobby,
Right.
Bobby. And they all knew, who I was because I didn't know who they were.
Hmm.
And they took about 3 days or so for them to convince me that I had been in a coma.
Hmm.
Because all that time in the coma, I had uh, a friend. I can't tell you what his name was. I can't tell you what he looked like. But I can say he was my best friend. I relied on him to keep me informed on everything around me.
Is that right?
Oh, she's doing fine. He was just, in his own pleasant way, assured me that everything was coming along okay and he just said so and so on.
Right.
So this experience that I had when I woke up, I didn't realize I woke up. It was just that so many other people started coming around,
Sure.
started a coma. That's why I didn't know who they were. And
Right.
for and all they finally convinced me that I had been in a coma all that time.
Is that right? So
Uh,
this person that or this entity that was there over watching you and informing you, you felt like that was actually almost a real experience. I mean, you didn't feel like you were dreaming or you were
you
in.
know, but our reality, uh, we got quite an imagination.
Yes, we do.
Look at what God has created. Look at His imagination.
Exactly.
We got to put it, and so that was my reality. Fortunately, Christopher, it is a de- it is a degree of the same reality of today.
Sure.
I obviously know that I'm not in a coma now, but that joy that He provided then, the comfort He allowed me to have, and the peace that has sustained me continues to sustain me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's I mean, what an amazing story. And I know personally, and I will maybe for another show we'll get back together. I'll share some of my own personal journeys about the passing of my parents and them coming back to me and having almost a similar experience as well, and having conversations with them that seemed really surreal and almost like just like you and I having a conversation to reassure me that they were also in a better place. They were doing fine, and that, they were good. So I can imagine there are these different psychological and physical planes that we operate on. And for those of us who are believers, that, God has angels watching over us as well too. So talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned, you didn't even realize you were in the coma, but once you finally came out and reality hit, um, and how did this affect you physically? Obviously, I mean, you had these severe burns to the majority of your body, facial, disfiguration. Um, were you able to perform the same types of, functions you were able to, previous to the injuries? Were there
No,
challenges, or are you still experiencing challenges? Actually, right before we came on and recorded this, you have your caretaker there, that was providing you an infusion as well too. So I want to talk a little bit about that here in just a second as well. But maybe share a little bit about, um, you know, the things you were challenged with, because I can't imagine that there weren't some.
well, we, we, it's natural for us to call it a challenge.
Right.
How about the, the things that I was introduced to?
Oh, I like that. Oh, wow. That's a way. That's a different paradigm. Yeah. Please share.
Yeah, because, uh, see, to the natural mind, oh my God, oh, this is too much. I could have never, this is just what, uh, being thrown in a fiery furnace that, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we could say that about them,
Sure.
but
Yes, we could.
they have a different perspective. Uh,
Right.
They rejoice.
Exactly.
Well, how could that be? I mean, is it really real? Are you telling the truth? Well, another one of those realities
Sure.
that you had to be there to see it for yourself.
Right.
And then I also would like just for everyone to consider when you go to what might be looked upon as a valley experience, mountaintop experience,
Right.
valley,
Right.
there God does have a way of providing lilies in your valley.
Yeah. Explain.
You once you have had this introduction, it allows me to see a dimension that I had not seen before.
Sure.
And even my imagination couldn't bring me to that point.
Right.
uh, You know, see, David said, "I walk through valleys and shadows of death. I fear no evil." Well, I can imagine what could get brave, but he was talking about a comfort that he had,
Right.
like a child in daddy's arms.
Sure.
Peter didn't even, there was no imagination, nothing that crossed his mind to be afraid. Not because he was so brave or
Right.
courageous, but because he was in daddy's arms.
Right.
Uh, and so uh, uh, I shall not want for anything, for thou art with me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, that wasn't just a nice poetic words that David was actually talking about. God had been with him.
Right. Walking with him through that whole journey. Yes. And having that comfort and knowledge that he was there,
Yeah,
protecting
so
them.
that it's complete talking about a reality
Right.
that was not nobody's imagination. He didn't pull no strings. God was with him. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna
He lived it. Yeah. He lived it.
yeah,
Exactly.
even though I used to read it and believe it and trust it and have faith in it and so on. Now I know it.
Sure. Absolutely.
Moses said something watching. He said, Father, all men can see your works, you, you build a water out of a rock,
Right.
build them from on high, from man on high.
Exactly.
There's no question about your works. He said, but I want to know your ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No,
So when you get this kind of opportunity or exposure or introduction to a little more of his ways,
Mhm.
brother, this, you know, that's a piece that I have yet to have experienced.
Right. And that most of us, quite honestly, yeah, and most of us, quite honestly, don't get that opportunity. To your point, we all still function in our kind of limited reality, uh, and don't believe in many cases there are other forces at work that have a greater understanding of the universe and the divine, divineness of it as well too. And there are those rare few like you who have been taking to that and have faced what we would perceive as very challenging and tragic, situations, but was really a transformation for you, and an awareness that there's something greater at hand. So that's such a beautiful and inspiring way to look at life. And as we go through our journeys and struggles in life, I think it's important for us to look at people like you who can tell that story, who have experienced that and understand the true realities of that, how you've been able to transform that into something that is empowering to you, and can now help us, also look at life a little bit differently as well.
Unfortunately, I was not able to transform it.
Mhm.
This is something that he does.
Right.
What tools, what instruments, what know-how, you're an IT person, what is it that you could do
Mhm.
to transform yourself?
Exactly. Exactly.
I couldn't help but be grateful that I happened to be one that did get in the accident.
Right.
I, uh, it took burning up, burning a lips off and all of, you know, I got amputations,
Right.
and then of course, replacement face, face, transplant. But it has been a experience that I could not look back and say, well, I like to have my last 60 years. Well, the last 60 years hasn't done anything more for me
Sure.
than what I have been through. But these last 10 years have given me a greater insight than I had ever had before.
Right. Wow. That's an amazing statement, profound statement to say the least. If you wouldn't mind, I'd love to pivot just a little bit and talk a little bit about, and I'm sure our audience is interested in understanding about this procedure. Can you just kind of share with us what is that procedure like? What is the process that an individual goes through to receive a transplantation of your type?
Yeah. I'd be glad to answer that. Let me just throw this in because uh, there are so many that's interested in transplant. But let's consider we're here to help our disabled diners,
Yes, that's a good point.
and there are amputees. Pay attention.
Right.
See, the brain survivors.
Mhm.
You don't see my brains because I have a face covering it now. But
Right.
the first one, God, you see all kinds of scars and different things because that is how we got to the face transplant.
Exactly. All the people that came before that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's very important because all the challenges and discoveries and what to do next and psychological adjustments, that all took place through all these other surgeries.
Sure.
Had a way over 30 surgeries before coming out the coma.
Exactly.
Those are life-threatening, and not only that, but can you imagine what the families have gone through, the stress, the worry, the
Sure.
doubt. It's amazing at how they were feeling day in and day out, not knowing every time they get a call, it's this might be the last time. I was coded blue 3 or 4 times. Who
Oh,
knows?
wow. Oh my God.
So the transplant is one thing.
Right.
What we go through to find ourselves being more empathetic toward our fellow man, that's why I'm so glad I went through this.
Sure. Sure.
Now I can make this emphasis on
Right.
the importance of caregiving,
Right.
being concerned about the whole man and not just to highlight, the finished product.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think again, that's a very good perspective. And thank you for kind of reminding us that there are others out there who are challenged with other, physical uh, opportunities, right? Whether it's, amputees or other folks who are dealing with challenges that might require transplantation as a way of helping to move them forward in some form or fashion. We need to be open and considering that as well too. I do want to press you though a little bit on just for those who are us who are a little bit techie in mind uh, about the journey that it took to go through this from a surgical standpoint. I think I mentioned I thought it was 14, 17 hours. It was several hours of surgery, but what did they do to prepare you for the surgery? What took place as a part of the surgery? And
Well,
then what had to happen post surgery to ensure that there wasn't rejection of the tissue and things of that nature? And then what do you do today to continue to maintain the ability for it to the transplantation to continue to function properly as well? Too, I'm not using the right words
I
for it.
understand what you're
You
saying.
know what I mean?
Um, well, after it starting to recover from the burns,
Mhm.
it took 3.5, 4 years after being discharged.
Right.
During that time, I interacted with a lot of plastic surgeons, dermatologists, and many other uh, specialties because my internal organs had to be dealt with. That's why I was in the hospital so long.
Right.
Liver, kidney, all those that never work that they're supposed to to a normal standard.
Sure.
And I had to stay in the hospital to have all that done. And so during that process, the last plastic surgeon that I worked with, he had a friend who had studied under Dr. Bolden Panelhoff. Bolden Panelhoff is the premier surgical physician for face transplants in the whole world.
Right.
He has actually done 10 face transplants. No physician has done more than 2.
Right.
So how does a black man find himself not only in a circumstance that eventually qualified for face transplant, but have the premier face transplant surgeon in the whole world?
Exactly.
And through this, we went through some evaluations. But this all took place in Boston at Harvard Medical Center's hospital, which is called Brigham Women's Hospital,
Right.
now known as General Mass. And at that time, the cutoff for evaluating face transplant was 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But I was already 64
Wow.
or 63 or something like that at the time. So, I never drank, smoked and all that stuff either, so I'm sure that helped. And so I went back and forth with them several years. As a result of being qualified, they also sent me through a lot of psychological tests and,
Mhm.
a lot of evaluation. But here's the first that they have seen, much less operated on in terms of this transplant.
Sure.
And so they're not that familiar with what you are supposed to look like, what the challenges might be, and so on. To the extent where, uh, as a person of color, there are, well, with Harvard data has been put together 18 different shades of African American,
Mm-hmm.
so that we could figure out, well, what shade would I be?
Right.
With a white person, there's only what they call two shades.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so everything that they had to do, not everything, but most of what they had to do was try to, without any foreknowledge, try to figure out how they were going to not only just do the surgery, but what would the outcome be in terms of facial complexion,
Mm-hmm.
my hemoglobin could be different than theirs. As an example, sickle cell, certain um, certain stem cells can eliminate sickle cell.
Right.
The chances are they're not going to come from a white person. They're
Sure.
come mainly from a person of color.
Exactly.
So all of these kind of factors, and many more, I'm sure,
Mhm.
was evaluated. Just as a side note, the U.S. military has over 300 uh, facial transplant candidates.
Wow.
And the Department of Defense, they're the ones that granted Brigham Women's Hospital the contract to do 10 face transplants before they sent their 300 to get that same surgery done.
Exactly. So we have wounded warriors who are also waiting for
Yeah,
transplantations to take place as well.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Now, also keep in mind that I happen to be the first full face transplant.
Right.
There had been other people, one other person actually, that had a partial, and many others have had partials.
Mhm.
So, could I don't know, believe it or not, this doesn't, that's another side note. We're going to put side note on side note.
No worries.
Uh, a lot of the patients have attempted suicide.
Right. I can
So
imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
they might have blown out their jaw,
Right.
or, but so those may be considered full or partial, depending on the damage that was done.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
So that's kind of how, and then they survived. So now they're so mangled up that they have to be covered up some kind of way.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to have you back on this show as well too, because there's so much more I want to talk to you about this journey. So this is going to be, episode one of another multi-episode of this conversation with you. So, but I do want to make sure as we start to wrap up this particular episode, you talk about, how you're advocating for transplantations, for organ donors,
Yeah.
what you're doing in that space, so that our audience is aware of that and can find ways to support this in your journey as well.
Okay. Let me try to, because I know I didn't really answer your question on procedure. We may have to do it another
No,
time.
we'll do that on another show. I'm having you back, so rest assured, we'll cover all of that another time.
Yeah, because the details are important. I'm sure they want to know.
Absolutely.
My advocacy effort happens to have been stemmed from, or at least known by my face transplant,
Mhm.
but it stems from feeling down,
Right.
applications, and then of course moving into transplantation, limb replacement, and so on. All
Exactly.
of these things are available, which means job opportunities for so many students. So look into other fields now that are growing in these areas.
Exactly. I would have never have thought about that, but you're right. That's a whole emerging
Oh yeah.
field. Exactly.
So what I do in terms of advocacy, there's several different components. one of those components is when I go to the schools, not just the colleges, but high schools and middle schools, I like to show and tell. That's what I call it, show and tell. Because I
Sure.
want them to see my legs and my
Right.
arms, and see just what, and because the kids don't know what's underneath their peers' clothing.
Exactly.
They could have been electrocuted. They
Right.
could have been in a fire,
Right.
caused home fire, barbecue.
Sure.
They need a great defect. You don't know what's beneath another child's clothing. And
Mhm.
so the more we can talk to them and show them what I go through, then they may not tease that child for not being able to walk or talk and
Right.
run the same way. So that's what we do in terms of the high school, the middle and high school students. Uh, and then the advocacy effort, anytime, well, one eye can actually uh, save 8 other eyes. And because I'm black, people will expect me to advocate for black donors, and obviously I do. I have that concern, but one kidney can come from anywhere
Yeah. Right.
to affect somebody. We need to know that. It doesn't have to be your color kidney
That's right.
and lung, liver, heart. So it's important, stem cell, bone marrow. For these kind of things, we want to make sure that the public, not just the U.S., but the public at large, everybody, every country, every corner of this world has individuals that are disfigured or have diseases, etc. And the more we make sure that we care, well, I think we, not just the Robert Chelsea found it,
Sure.
but that humanity cares about one another, the more we can stimulate and encourage other scientists from other parts of this world to start looking into how and the governments to support more research and the research routes and science and
Right.
how much more for humanity. So
A human being. Absolutely. So there's a Robert Chelsea Foundation, right? And so that foundation is focused on advocating for transplantations, organ donors, uh, awareness, understanding
yeah,
of folks who are faced with these. Uh, uh, I hate to use the word challenges. You used a better word than I did, but faced with this situation in their lives. Um, so, how would someone reach you if they wanted to find out more about the foundation, donate,
yeah.
get involved?
Our website is robertchelsea.org. Pretty easy. robertchelsea.org. CHELSTA. You can Google my name. You can Google face transplants,
Right.
and you'll get all kind of information. Because I'm the first, actually they're short all over the place. So
Absolutely.
it's under New England General Medicine and Wikipedia and all those different places. Uh, so yeah, it would be nice to support, but give me a call. Maybe if you want, I'll be glad to comment, but no matter where they are, and at least hopefully I can inspire some others to inspire others to care
Absolutely.
about one another. That, that's that's really my objective, is to do what we can to help one another out.
Well, that's great. Well, I can't believe that, we're nearing the end of this interview. And again, I've got so much more I want to talk to you about. So, Robert, you just put a pin in it. Know that you'll get another invitation here in the not too distant future to come back and we can want to continue this story. I'd love to have your healthcare professionals as well a part of this conversation as well. I know you got a gentleman there today helping you with some care as well too, just to talk to them about the experience. It would be great to have maybe one of your physicians or one of the other professionals that was a part of that journey with you also talk about this from their perspective as well too. So you and I'll work on that as well.
Okay, we're all glad to do it.
Wonderful.
We're honored and we're glad to do it because this is still new for them.
Yes,
So it's very
absolutely.
important that, you know,
So what
half black, but under 47 face transplant was I'm just the first black. So
Okay.
everything that they have learned, all that they have generalized, all
Sure.
that they advised, research, has not been with people of color.
Absolutely. So there's still a lot of opportunity, a lot of ways to go to address those challenges as well. So before we close, can you share kind of one thing you want our listeners to take away from this conversation, or one piece of advice, or just one nugget that you think is relevant that you
Yeah,
can be imparted with as we leave this conversation today?
yeah. It would not be specific, but it exists. Um, kindness. Kindness pays dividends that no man can measure.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Kind is it's a twin to a sweet heart.
Right.
You can have one without the other. And with that in mind, um, they will find it, they meaning anyone that will strap kindness on, buy it and strap it on, they'll find it to be a greater benefit than any. You can't pick and choose who you're gonna help.
Right.
How you gonna know who you are gonna help?
Exactly.
You may not have the right tools,
Sure.
but you can, and I think there's a scripture that says, "Greet all men with a holy kiss."
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. That's what's the golden rule? Do unto others as you have for them do unto you.
Do it better. You got to do better than what you could do. We rate ourselves differently.
Sure. Well, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Just like you said, love, kindness. I mean, those are two powerful, things that can change the
It
world.
pays dividends that no man can measure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Robert. It's been indeed an honor and a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I'll be, following up and planning our next conversation as well, too. Thank you to everyone who took time out their busy schedule to listen in and hear Robert's story and Robert's ministry as well, too, in this space. He's an amazing human being. I'm so honored and blessed to have had this opportunity to share his story, and look forward to continuing further conversations with him in the future. Well, that's it for this episode, our first video episode of Straight Outta Health IT. As always, please take the time to share this with others you think would benefit from this discussion. Let's make this particular episode go viral. And as always, I appreciate your love and support. But until next time, take care and God bless.
Thank you so much for listening to Straight Outta Health IT. We hope you enjoyed today's guest. For more unfiltered dialogue of healthcare leaders and influencers, be sure to tune in next week. For the show notes, transcripts, and resources, please visit Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite streaming platform. We invite you to give us feedback by reaching out to Christopher Kunney on LinkedIn, just searching for Straight Outta Health IT, and you'll find us. We are constantly having live discussions about diverse topics in the industry.